Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Step by Step. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 forgotten standard Pokemon cards. Whenever I make a video, I never really know what my theme is going to be until inspiration hits. And what I really like doing is making videos based on where I am right now in my own thinking. And right now, I'm reading through basically every card, trying to see if there's anything that we've overlooked as a player base that could be impactful on the game. So that's how this concept came to be. So a couple of disclaimers first. I really like to keep the concept in mind that every idea must be known, even if it's never played. If you have 10, 15, even top 20 concepts that aren't really being used right now, and then a month later, a tournament that you're going to, one of those concepts becomes relevant a couple days before the tournament based on the meta, it's really good to have known about those things ahead of time and have your own plan of thinking that's called being proactive rather than being reactionary to what everybody else is doing. Second of all, some of these concepts will be relevant now, some of them will be relevant later if the meta shifts. So I'm really excited about this list, so let's just jump right in. At number 10, I've got Absol. Absol's Cursed Eyes ability allows you to move 3 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon. This is pretty important for a couple reasons. It combos well with Umbreon GX, which does 30 damage to the bench. It combos really well with Tapu Koko as you're spreading 20 damage, the promo Tapu Koko as you're spreading 20 damage to everything on the field. And it combos well with Magma Base as all the basics are taking 20 damage as they hit the field. So there's a couple different concepts you could play it in. You could squeak one into a Garbodor Drampa list just to move more damage to the active Pokemon to get a knockout that you might be missing from someone who's managing their tools properly and leaving you one tool shy of getting the knockout. So just something like that might help in different lists. So let's move on to number 9. We've got Altaria. Altaria is pretty much only there if fighting counters to Drampa GX become huge, then you can take away Drampa's weakness. Drampa won't have any more fighting weakness, and it'll be a lot harder to knock it out with something like Lycanroc GX, or Zygarde EX, or even something crazy like Aerodactyl EX, or Passimian, whatever. So if fighting counters become really popular to Drampa GX, Altaria is a pretty good response. Number 8, we've got Oricorio. Oricorio is really cool because we're all kind of having to change the way we build decks based on Garbodor's dominance, and Oricorio has a Prof's Letter ability which lets you search your deck for 2 basic energy cards and put them into your hand. This could be super beneficial for decks like Volcanion, who might need to steam up, Lurantis, who needs to get some energies in the discard pile so they can flower supply them back to the active. It can be nice to get this card out with Fan Club. You don't have to spend a trainer card, because obviously what would be the point if you're using an item card like Ultra Ball to get the Oricorio out, just to avoid using a Prof's Letter. So you can Fan Club for it. If you bridge it for it, you won't be able to use the ability, so remember you have to use Fan Club to get the Oricorio. And then of course it could combo well with Aqua Patch. You could always use Fan Club for like a Vulpix and a Oricorio or something like that. Play the Vulpix and the Oricorio down, grab 2 water energies, Sycamore away the water energies or something, and then Aqua Patch them back onto the field. So and of course that does kind of, granted you're playing an item card when you play the Aqua Patch, but at least you're not playing a Prof's Letter or something like that to get the water energies out. So just something to keep in mind if you're needing a way to find basic energies from your deck without playing an item card. Number 7, we've got Smeargle. Smeargle helps some stuff with weird synergy work. I've been trying some really different Garbodor variants. I've been trying Garbodor with Zoroark Break. It's pretty cool to be able to copy GX attacks plus use Trashulance. It has been a little clunky and I'm not huge on it right now, but stuff like that, like let's say you have a Dark Energy in your discard pile and a Psychic Energy in hand, well, you can just attach the Psychic Energy to Zoroark Break and use Smeargle's ability to swap the basic energies out from your discard pile to the active, obviously. And then you could also kind of keep the same concept in mind if you were to do something like Garbodor with Lycanroc GX. Of course, Lycanroc GX needs a fighting energy, fighting and psychic. There's really no synergy there, but there is if you can just swap it out of what's in your discard pile. So don't forget about Smeargle when you're trying to make decks with weird synergy work. Number 6, we've got Jirachi, the old promo Jirachi that was super popular last season. Jirachi could help a couple different decks out if they're having an issue with Vespiquen, Drampa, or Umbreon simply by discarding double colors energies and forcing your opponent to have a Lysander or a Pokemon Ranger to either get a 1 prize knockout or work around Jirachi to get something off the bench, but then of course Jirachi can just Stardust again next turn. So pretty decent if you're having a tough matchup with one of those three decks. I really do like the concept, especially against the Rainbow Energy heavy Drampa Garbodor variant. When they're most likely going to be starting with a special energy on their Drampa. If you go second, Jirachi is a pretty decent response to a first turn Drampa. At number 5, I've got Snorlax GX. Snorlax GX is a pretty decent concept because it survives Drampa without even having a Fighting Fury Belt attached to it. Now, if you attach a Fighting Fury Belt to it, then you've got 230 HP, you're dishing out 190 or 220 damage. It's a really, really strong card. You can combo it with the Hypno. There's one that has an ability that's called something like Night Night Babies or something silly like that. You can put your Snorlax to sleep to do 180 damage. It's really tough to get that much energy onto it, so kind of like the idea of using it with Ninja Boy in something like the new Dragonair Darkrai deck that's come out, where it's almost like the old school Turbo Dark, except minus all the item cards to make Darkrai Turbo. You're basically just using Dragonair to make Darkrai Turbo. So since you're not really using a GX attack in that deck, I definitely think, since you're attaching so many energies, I mean, I think the deck plays 15 energies, it would be super, super nice to Ninja Boy into a Snorlax GX whenever you need to do a little bit more damage, or even if a couple of things have gotten knocked out and you're at the point where you only have a few energies on the field. Using Ninja Boy into Snorlax is pretty nice. Or you could even just use Dragonair to power up a bunch of different Snorlaxes. You could just use Dragonair Hypno Snorlax. Using Dragonair on turn 2 or whatever, or even turn 1 if you Wally into it, which just almost sounds like too much stuff at this point. But to get a bunch of energies on all your Snorlaxes, Hypno, put everything to sleep, Thunderous Snore for 180 for the rest of the game, and then using your Pulverizing Pancake whenever you want. So if Dragonair Darkrai works and has a little bit of a weakness to Drampa because of the 180 HP, well, why not try Dragonair Snorlax with Fighting Fury Belt? It's not something that I'm hearing much talk of right now, and at the moment its weakness isn't too terrible unless you get matched up with a Lycanroc or a Zygarde if anybody's playing that right now. Number 4, we've got Starmie. Starmie has a super interesting attack. For 1 colorless energy, it does Synchro Star. If this Pokemon and your opponent's active have the same amount of energy attached to them, this attack does 60 more damage. So you're getting 70 damage for 1 energy. That is relevant because that knocks out Garbodor in 1 hit. A lot of times in the Garbodor mirror match, you're being super conservative with your item cards because 3 item cards in the discard pile and Garbodor one-shots Garbodor. Well, if your opponent has a Garbodor in play with 1 energy and isn't really playing many item cards and is just kind of waiting for you to play your item cards, you can always just attack with Starmie to get a knockout. So it really is more of a Garbodor mirror match counter than anything, in my opinion. But also keep in mind, since it does require just 1 colorless energy, that you can kind of tech it into anything you want. Although putting a Tech Starmie in to get 1 prize off a Garbodor in a deck that doesn't also run Garbodor doesn't seem super great to me. So I really see it more as a Garbodor mirror match counter. Also, if you have 3 energies on it, so let's say you have 1, let's say you're playing against the Garbodor Espeon version of Garbodor, and you have 3 energies on your Starmie, you can put a Choice Band on it and knock out Espeon in 1 shot using Synchro Star. Synchro Star would do 100 damage, Espeon's weak to Psychic, so you get the knockout that way, and that's a pretty favorable price trade. For number 3, we have Fighting Fury Belt. I mentioned it already when I talked about the Snorlax deck. That really isn't a deck, but just a concept that I mentioned 2 minutes ago. But this is kind of cool because it helps you survive Drampa GX at the moment. Most people are only playing 1 to 2 Field Blowers, so this card stopped seeing play because everyone thought, oh, well, it'll never survive a Field Blower. But if you're running 3 or 4 Fighting Fury Belts and your opponent's running 1 or 2 Field Blowers, it probably will survive Field Blowers. Not to mention, it works really well on Darkrai EX, Snorlax GX, could even work on Tapu Bulu GX or Lapras GX, and works really, really well on Volcanion EX, and may even work on Tapu Koko GX. So there's a lot of stuff out there that could benefit from Fighting Fury Belt that keeps it alive versus Drampa, keeps it alive versus other stuff, and still allows it to do the normal amount of damage that those cards otherwise would be doing. So I definitely don't think we should be sleeping on Fighting Fury Belt, especially, like I said a minute ago, if you're playing that Darkrai Dragonair deck, there's really no reason to not run Fighting Fury Belt in that kind of concept since you're getting so many energies on the field on turn 2. Number 2, we've got Bisharp. Bisharp's really awesome. It's the multi-type Bisharp that is half dark, half metal, or is it fully dark and fully metal? So it returns a favorable KOs versus Alolan Ninetales GX and Mega Gardevoir if you have a choice band attached. It does it for one colorless energy, so you can use any energy. If any of your Pokemon are knocked out the turn prior to this attack to retaliate, then you get to do 90 damage with a choice band that's 120 damage, knocking out those cards. Also, it pairs really well with evolutions. You can turn it to a water type to get a one-shot on a Volcanion. You can turn it to a fire type to get a one-shot on a lot of different stuff. So I see this card kind of more of as a 1/1 or 2/2 in something that has an issue with Alolan Ninetales, like maybe even Garbodor Drampa. Or you could really run it in anything where if you're already running evolutions and you need to get a return KO on something kind of difficult, this card could definitely work in that matchup. I really like it. It's one of the only Pokemon right now that has Retaliate, and it's pretty versatile with just the one colorless energy. And for number 1, I feel like we should kind of pitch this one like an infomercial. So, are you tired of being flying flipped to death by promo Tapu Koko? Are you sick of seeing 20 damage get spread across all your Pokemon? Well, we've got the solution for you. It's Rotom. Okay, enough of the infomercial, but my number 1 overlooked card at the moment is Rotom. Plasmagic is pretty crazy once I read it. For a double colorless energy, you move 2 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. So, you've got 5 bench Pokemon and 1 active. Tapu Koko does Flying Flip to put 20 on all 6 of your Pokemon. Well, then you could just Plasmagic to move 2 damage counters from all of them right back to Tapu Koko, which will one-shot Tapu Koko and heal every single one of your Pokemon. Also, if Magma Base has put 20 damage on all of your Pokemon, and you put a double colors energy on Rotom, Plasmagic will one-shot Garbodor. So, this is a super interesting card. If you find yourself having a tough matchup with Tapu Koko, or even have a tough matchup with Garbodor Drampa simply because of the Magma Base, this card could be super interesting to erase some of that damage. So that's it, everybody. I really appreciate you watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. I hope you have a couple concepts to keep in mind for the future. And I hope, as always, when you're playing Pokemon, you remember to have fun. Thanks, guys.